Okay, so today we are going to be talking about the secret to sight word mastery. If you have ever taught a group of students and you have those students that just seem to get the sight words, and then you have your group of students maybe that no matter how many times you go over the sight word with them, it's just not seeming to stick with them. Maybe some of them do, some of them don't. And they just seem to really be struggling with catching on with those sight words. That is what today is really going to be for. It's great stuff for everyone so that all of your students are mastering their sight words. So we don't have that one group that it clicks for them really easily, and then we have another group that is having to struggle through them. We want sight words to click for all of our students. So here is our roadmap for today. We are going to talk about why we should be teaching sight words. We're going to do an orthographic mapping overview. If you haven't heard of orthographic mapping before, that's totally fine because we are going to chat about it together. Then we are going to talk about how to introduce sight words using that orthographic mapping strategy, which is really what's going to help all of our students to be able to master sight words and not just some of our students. And then we're going to talk about some other ideas for practicing sight words to help increase exposure because we know that's one of the big things and we want for these to be committed to our students' memory. And so that's what we are going to go through today. So, why sight words? Well, sight words can actually, and do, a lot of them do, align with our phonics instruction. So a lot of times, and I am so guilty of doing this myself, so I am not calling anyone out. If I am, I'm calling myself out. We introduce a sight word and we are essentially just asking for our students to memorize it, right? We say maybe, oh, you can't sound this word out, so that's why we have to memorize it, or it doesn't follow the patterns that we're learning, so we have to memorize it. And I've been there, I've done that, but actually, the most of the sight words that, or what we consider sight words that we end up teaching, actually do follow a lot of the phonics patterns. So that's something that we'll talk about. Sight words aid in fluency. So those are things that because the students know them right off the bat, they're committed to memory as they are reading. They're not having to stop and figure out or phonetically decode those words because they're already committed to memory. This aids comprehension. So it aids in fluency, and then fluency aids in the students' comprehension because they are able to get through the text with better fluency so they understand what they've read when they finish reading it. This is also going to help build students' confidence. It's going to make reading more enjoyable. And just like you, I know that I'm this way. When an activity is more enjoyable, we tend to perceive it more positively. It's something that maybe, oh yeah, I'd like to do that again because that was enjoyable. And really, we want to create students, or we want to help students grow to love reading. That's like my big thing as a literacy teacher. I know in kindergarten I teach everything, but I still consider myself a literacy teacher because I'm the one that's doing it with them, and I want for them to love reading. So all of those that's my take on why we should be focusing on sight words. There's definitely research out there that if you're interested in all of that. But let's jump into orthographic mapping. Some of you may be familiar, some of you, this may be something new that you're hearing, so I want to make sure that we touch base on this before we get too far in. So, orthographic mapping is how we store new words in our brain for automatic retrieval. So that's when we typically think of a sight word that we automatically remember it. That's the automatic retrieval piece. It's the process that we use to store words into our long-term memory. And there's three pieces that go into orthographic mapping, or being able to commit that word into memory using this technique, really how the word is learned, right? It's not even necessarily a technique. So the sounds that the word makes, or the phonemes, those spoken sounds, then the spelling or the orthography, and then the meaning of the word. And so the way that we can help students commit these sight words to their memory is by making sure that we are activating all three of these areas, because this is what is going to help them to remember these words and help them to become a sight word or a high frequency word or something that they are able to read right away when they see it in a text. So when we're introducing sight words, or when we're introducing a high frequency word because it hasn't necessarily become a sight word yet, because it hasn't been committed to memory, we want to make sure that we are connecting the sounds, or sorry, let me back up. Connecting sounds and spelling is a great reason that this fits into phonics instruction. So I recommend that. I know a lot of us use like the Fry list or the Dolch list for our sight words, but they are ranked in the order of a lot of, I can't remember which one is which, but anyways, they rank them in the order that they are typically seen in books, but that doesn't necessarily align with the phonics that you're teaching. So if you can go through and align them with what you are teaching in phonics, that is what's going to help connect those sounds and the spelling so that the students can remember them, so they can commit them to their memory. So that's one way to introduce high frequency words, and that's a great place for them to live, is during your phonics instruction. So then we've got a difference between these two basically our high frequency words can fall into two areas. They can fall into flash words, and they can fall into heart words. So flash words are going to be words that can be decoded phonetically, not, n-a-t. So we can truly sound that entire word out, and we can make sense of that phonetically. Then we've got heart words that are spelled irregularly, so they need to be learned by heart. Now, sometimes these words can be fluid because it depends on what we've taught so far in phonics, whether or not the students know those spelling patterns or those phonics patterns so that they can phonetically sound this out, right? So the words can be fluid, and I want to give you a couple of examples. So when we are looking at a flash word versus a heart word, so again, we've got that phonetic spelling, and then we've got words that are irregular. A heart word, for example, might be the, because we've got the TH, and now depending on where you're at in your curriculum, if you haven't taught the TH digraph, then there would also be a heart over this because the students haven't learned that yet, right? So that sound that is being made maybe hasn't been taught. But let's pretend we're at a point in our scope and sequence with phonics that we've already taught that phonics pattern, so the students know this. So they're going to be able to get that, but E, making an sound, the, or if it's the, there's still not really there's no other pattern in the word that's making it say that sound. So that's why this one is a heart word. It's one that we are truly going to have to remember by heart, and that's why we call it a heart word, because it is an irregularly spelled word. I'll give you another example of a heart word. I don't have the heart drawn on top of this one, but A. Now we know from teaching phonics that A can make the long A sound, but there's no pattern in this word that is making it say the long A sound. So that's why instead of when we're reading saying when we see this word, we've committed it to heart that this word is A. All right. So again, those are fluid. Sometimes words may start they may have parts that are heart words when you are teaching them earlier in the year, and then they become flash words because the students have learned those patterns, right? So they're not, it's not something that you haven't introduced anymore. So introducing sight words. First, the first thing I always do is say and repeat the word because we want the students to understand what the word is that we are introducing. So for example, my word is red. Okay, so I'm going to tell students we are going to learn the word red. The word is red. They will respond that the word is red. The next thing that we want to do, remember, we're trying to make sure that we are using orthographic mapping and we want to hit all three of those key areas. We are going to then create meaning. Okay, so this word needs to have meaning for students to remember it. So give students a chance to talk about what does this word mean? How might I use this word? Well, red is a color, okay? A tomato is red. This is red, right? A stop sign is red. So give them a chance to create some meaning that goes along with this word. Next, we're going to have the students separate the phonemes by segmenting all the sounds that they hear. So red, d. So we separate those phonemes that they hear, and then we confirm the sounds that they heard, right? If they say the sounds and, maybe they did not separate the phonemes correctly. So we want to give them a chance to correct that. We want to be there to correct them, but we want to confirm, yes, those are the sounds that we heard. Then finally, you can build the word with letter tiles, write it on a board, have them write it on a board, and students can help by saying aloud which sounds go with each letter. So instead of just saying, okay, memorize this, R-E-D is red, we are actually committing, we've got meaning, we've broken it into the phonemes, so we've listened to the different sounds, and we are looking at the letters, and they're going to connect that is made by the letter R. Okay, and so we're going to write that on our board or build it with magnets, what have you. Now, this one, because it can be sounded out phonetically would not be a heart word, it'd be a flash word because there's nothing irregular about this word. Okay? Let's see. Moving on along. So some other ideas for practice. So always, when we are introducing these high frequency words and trying to get students to commit them to memory, internalize them, using all three of those areas, then we are going to want to make sure that they are getting practice with reading and with spelling these words, because it's not just about reading them. We want to ensure that they can spell them too. And if they are truly internalizing the patterns that they're hearing, the phonemes, they're internalizing the meaning, the orthography, the actual letters, then they should be able to transfer this into writing, but we need to make sure we're giving them the chance to do that. So one activity that I like to do with students, and this can be done in partners. Now, they don't have to share anything. So if you've got right now like those kind of plexiglass sneeze guards or whatever in between, this is still something that they can do together, but they are separated, right? There's nothing that needs to be shared. Basically, each student needs a whiteboard. Each student needs a marker, and then hopefully they've got maybe some kind of ring of words, not necessarily that we're using these as flashcards or anything at this point, but hopefully they've got some words on a ring or in an envelope or something like that that you have taught them. Then what they are going to do is pull one of the words out. So if it's player one's turn, let's pretend that I am player two. Player one is going to draw a word. I'm going to let you see it. Okay? And that friend is going to read the word to player two. Okay? So player one says red. Player one doesn't show me the card. I can't see it. I mean, I can see it on the screen, but player one is not showing me the card. Okay? On my whiteboard, I am going to use my knowledge that I have already been exposed to with those sounds, with the spelling patterns, with the meaning of the word to write the word red. Now, player one's job is to ensure and give kind corrective feedback for if player two has a mistake, right? Maybe they've got a wrong letter for a phoneme or something like that, then they can give that nice corrective feedback. But this is helping them work on actually writing and spelling. Now, if you have like a word wall or something in your classroom, then that can also be a visual support for students after player one has read the card to them. So very simple, low prep. They don't have to share anything. Another idea for practice is book hunts. Okay, especially with most of the high frequency words. That's why they are high frequency words, because they show up a lot. So we can have students do a book hunt and try and find that word. Maybe every time they find the word, they write the word. They say the word. They say the sounds that they hear in the word. So they are, again, internalizing all of this together. Kinesthetic, or spelling with your body. This is one of my favorites to do just as an additional little extra practice. And this gets students thinking about the letter formation, really, about whether it's, I call them a tall letter, a letter in the middle, or a letter that hangs down low, just depending on, like an H would be a tall letter, and then G, a lowercase g, would be a low letter because it hangs below. Lowercase a would be a letter in the middle. So basically what we would do with that, with the example of red, we have two letters that would just fall in the middle, and then D would be one of those letters that is tall. So because I'm a cheerleading coach, we do a little cheer, and we say the word is red. And for letters in the middle, we put our hands on our hips. So we would say the word is red, R, E, and then because D is a tall letter, we're going to clap up above our head for D. And then we would say the word again, red. So I'll show you the whole thing. The word is red, R, E, D, red. Okay, so that's another little quick practice that you can do with students to get a little bit more kinesthetic, gets them thinking about the formation of the letters, and they love it. And you can do it with changing voices too, like give it to me in your best creepy voice, or give it to me in your best singing voice. It's just really fun. The students enjoy it, and it's a quick, short activity that you can do. Read and build. So that's kind of similar to the sight word boards, but basically the students can, maybe they're reading the word in a book or they're looking for it, and then they build it with magnetic letters, or they build it with Play-Doh or something like that. I think the big thing with these, with the read and build, is that the students you need to ensure that the students know what the word is that they are reading and building. Because too many times, teachers have put out a center where it's like a mat and the word said is on the map, but the students don't really know necessarily that the word is said. They haven't internalized it because they maybe haven't been taught and they haven't orthographically mapped it, right? And they're just basically building the letters, right? But they're not internalizing that word is said. So we want to make sure if we're using that strategy that they are internalizing and they understand what word they're making and why those letters form those sounds that they make. Another fun one is a muffin tin or ice cube tray toss. So I have an example of one. So you can do this with muffin tins. I like to do it with ice cube trays, and I just get these at the Dollar Tree. I think it's like 2 of them for $1. And I just write the high frequency words. You can also write them on a piece of paper and tape them in. And literally, you can just sit this on the floor, use a little cube or an eraser or a pom-pom or whatever, and students toss it. And whatever one it lands in, they practice reading that word. But that's just another fun little idea for getting some extra practice. And that is our quick talk through high frequency words, sight words, orthographic mapping for the day. I wanted to let everyone know that I have been hosting guided reading workshops. I've already done one. It was fantastic. We had some great feedback. I am hosting 2 more. The next one is on March the 6th, which is this Saturday at 12 p.m. Central Time. And then the last one is March 11th at 7 p.m. Central Time. And the big topics of these are really how to make small group instruction work, right? So once you get to the small group, you can formulate it to work for your grade level and what your students need, but this is going to get you to where you can meet with your small groups, okay? So structuring your reading block, how to structure it so that you can get small groups in, how to organize your time, and management and engagement strategies. I know that's one of the biggest things is teachers are like, well, what are my other students going to do while I am meeting with small groups? And how do I keep them engaged? Because I just feel like they are interrupting me over and over again while I'm trying to work with my small group. So those are all topics that we are going over in the guided reading workshop, and you are all invited. You can grab a free seat at that at theteachingtexan.com/guided reading workshop. The thing with this, it's not a Facebook Live. It's a little bit longer. It's about an hour long. We're going to go deep dive into all of that. And since it's not on Facebook, that's why you do need to go and register so that you can get the link sent to you, because that's the only way to get in there and get logged in is by registering and getting that link. Again, it's free, and there are 2 dates to choose from left. And I hope that all of you will consider joining me. And I hope that all of you have a fantastic Friday and happy weekend. Bye, y'all.